They say love makes you blind, but betrayal makes you see everything clearly. The day I caught my husband with his secretary, something inside me died. But what neither of them knew was that I'd rise from the ashes in a way that would make the man who broke our vows kneel before me, begging for the woman he thought he could replace. This is how it happened. It was an ordinary afternoon, or at least, it started that way. I had spent the morning arranging a surprise lunch for Daniel, his favorite pasta, homemade, the way he liked it. We hadn't been spending much time together lately, his work hours had stretched late into the night, and he always seemed distant, distracted. I thought maybe he was just stressed about the expansion of his company. So I decided to do something nice. Something to remind him of us. As I drove toward his office, the radio played a love song that used to make him smile. My fingers tapped along the steering wheel, heart light with the thought of seeing him. I remember thinking how love was about the small gestures, the simple ways you remind someone that they're home. When I entered the lobby, everyone greeted me with polite smiles. I'd been there countless times before. I knew every corner of that building, every person who worked there. After all, I'd helped Daniel design it when he first opened his firm. It had felt like our shared dream back then. But that day, as I reached his floor, something felt different. There was laughter, soft, intimate laughter, coming from behind his half-open door. I froze. My heartbeat stumbled. Maybe it was just a colleague, maybe a client. But that laughter wasn't businesslike. It was flirtatious, teasing, full of warmth that used to belong to me. I pushed the door open a little more. And that's when the world tilted. She was standing close to him, Lily, his secretary. Her hand brushed his arm, and he didn't move away. His head tilted toward her, his smile relaxed, easy. Too easy. Daniel, she whispered, giggling. Someone might come in. He smiled back, eyes dark with a familiarity that broke me. Then we'll lock the door. I didn't hear anything after that. The container slipped from my trembling hands, hitting the marble floor. The sound of breaking glass shattered the moment, and me along with it. Both of them turned. Lily jumped back, her face draining of color. Daniel's expression froze, shock, guilt, and something else I couldn't name. Mia, he breathed, stepping forward. I can explain, but I couldn't hear him. I just turned and walked out. My heels clicked down the hallway, every step slicing through the silence. People stared as I passed, their whispers trailing behind me. I didn't care. I just needed to get out, away from him, away from them. That night, he came home. He tried to explain. His voice was calm, too calm, as if he could reason away the image burned into my mind. Mia, it wasn't what it looked like, he said. It just happened. I've been under pressure, and Lily, she's been supportive. It was a mistake. A mistake. That word echoed in my chest like poison. Do you even remember what we promised each other? I whispered. You vowed to be faithful. To be my partner through everything. He looked away, jaw tight. People change, Mia. You've been distant lately. We haven't been connecting. I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. I had been distant. I'd been the one cooking alone, sleeping beside an empty space, waiting for a man who came home long after midnight. I looked at him for a long moment, searching for the man I had loved. But all I saw was someone who had already left me long before that moment. I hope she was worth it, I said quietly, and walked out. I didn't take much, just a small bag, my laptop, and the broken pieces of my heart. I drove through the night to my mother's old cottage by the sea, where the air smelled of salt and freedom. For days, I didn't speak to anyone. I just sat by the window, watching the tide rise and fall, wondering how everything had fallen apart so easily. Love, I realized, doesn't always die loudly. Sometimes, it just fades quietly under the weight of neglect. Weeks passed, and slowly, I began to breathe again. I picked up freelance work, using the same design skills I'd once used for Daniel's projects. Clients came, small ones at first. Then bigger ones. I poured all my pain into my work, every design, every color, every line. I built something new from the ruins he left behind. And then, one morning, everything changed again. I sat on the bathroom floor, a pregnancy test in my hand, staring at the two lines that glowed like fate. Pregnant. I pressed my trembling hand against my stomach, tears streaming down my face. I didn't know whether to laugh or sob. Daniel's child. The child of the man who broke every promise we made. For hours, I sat there, thinking. Should I tell him? Should I give him the chance to be a father? But then I remembered his voice, the way he had said, people change. And I realized I couldn't raise this child surrounded by lies. So I made a decision. I wouldn't tell him. I'd raise my baby alone, with love and honesty, the things our marriage had lost. The months that followed were hard. Pregnancy was lonely, exhausting, but it also healed me in ways I didn't expect. Every time I felt the baby move, I found a new reason to fight. I started working harder, saving every penny, growing my small business into something real. When my son, Noah, was born, I held him close and whispered, "You're my beginning, not my ending." His tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and in that moment, I knew I'd be fine. 3 years passed. My company grew beyond what I ever imagined. I opened an office, hired a small team, and became known for turning ordinary spaces into works of warmth and elegance. Life finally felt stable again. Until one morning, as I sifted through business proposals, an email arrived that made my heart skip. A major real estate firm wanted me to design their new headquarters. It was the biggest opportunity of my career, life-changing. I clicked open the file, scanning the details, smiling at the possibilities. But then I froze. The client's name at the top of the letterhead, Daniel Carter Industries. For a moment, everything around me blurred. My throat tightened, hands shaking as the memories I'd buried clawed their way back. After all these years, fate had found a way to bring us face to face again. But I wasn't the same woman who had walked away that night in tears. I wasn't the wife he'd betrayed. I was the woman who had rebuilt herself from the ashes. And if destiny wanted me to meet Daniel Carter again, then this time, it would be on my terms. He thought I'd crumble without him. But when he saw me walk into that boardroom, stronger, successful, and with a secret he didn't yet know, he froze. And when he learned the truth about our son, that's when the man who once broke my heart fell to his knees. He thought I'd crumble without him. But when he saw me walk into that boardroom, stronger, successful, and with a secret he didn't yet know, he froze. And when he learned the truth about our son, that's when the man who once broke my heart fell to his knees. The morning of the meeting arrived sooner than I expected. I stood before the mirror, adjusting the pearl earrings I hadn't worn since my wedding day. Once, they symbolized love, now, they symbolized strength. My hair was neatly tied, my black suit pressed, simple, elegant, commanding. I wasn't going there as Daniel's wife. I was going as Mia Carter, CEO of my own thriving design firm. As I entered the tall glass building that bore his name, Daniel Carter Industries, my reflection shimmered against the polished walls. It felt surreal, standing inside what had once been our dream, now fully his. The receptionist greeted me politely and led me to the conference room. I could hear voices inside, business chatter, the clinking of coffee cups, laughter. And then, silence. When I stepped in, all eyes turned to me. And there he was, Daniel. For a moment, time stilled. He looked almost the same, yet older. There were faint lines on his face that hadn't been there before, and his once confident posture faltered the instant our eyes met. The pen in his hand slipped slightly, and his lips parted in disbelief. "Mia," he breathed, like he was afraid I'd vanish if he said my name too loud. I smiled politely, composed. "Mr. Carter," I said smoothly. "Thank you for inviting our firm to this project. Shall we begin?" The other executives looked between us, sensing something in the air, but I didn't flinch. I opened my presentation folder and began to explain the concept designs I had prepared. My voice didn't tremble once. Daniel tried to focus, but I could feel his eyes on me the entire time, like he couldn't decide whether he was seeing a ghost or a miracle. When the meeting ended, polite applause filled the room. My team packed up, and the executives left, murmuring about schedules and budgets. But Daniel didn't move. He just stood there, staring. When the last person left, he finally spoke. His voice was low, uncertain. You're the lead designer." I looked at him evenly. "Yes, my company has grown since I left." He took a hesitant step closer. "Mia, I've been looking for you for years. You just disappeared." "That was the point," I said quietly. He swallowed hard, eyes glistening. "I know you probably hate me. I'd understand if you did. But I swear, not a single day went by that I didn't regret what I did. Lily and I raised a hand, stopping him. You don't need to explain. The past doesn't matter anymore. But it does to me, he insisted. I lost everything when you walked away. She left soon after, the company almost went under, and I realized how empty my life was without you. I turned away, gathering my things. Regret doesn't undo betrayal, Daniel. It never has. Mia, he said softly, stepping closer, I can see you've built a new life. You look happy, and that's good. I'm proud of you. But please, just have coffee with me. One last time. No expectations, no apologies. I just need to talk to you properly. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to walk away again, to never open that wound. But another part, the one that still had questions, stayed silent. Fine, I said finally. One coffee. At the cafe across the street, we sat by the window. He looked nervous, fidgeting with his cup. You've changed, he said. You're stronger now, independent. You used to smile all the time, now your eyes hold power. I had to learn, I said, stirring my coffee. When you're left alone, you either break, or you build. He looked down, guilt written all over him. Mia, I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know, I never stopped loving you. Even when I was too foolish to see what I had, you were always the best part of my life. I didn't respond. Love, to me, had become a word too fragile to trust. When we finished, he offered to walk me to my car. As we stepped outside, I saw a familiar little figure running toward me, Noah. Mommy, he called, his voice bright with joy. I froze. My heart stopped. I hadn't planned for him to meet Daniel, not yet. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Daniel's eyes widened as he turned toward the boy. His breath hitched as if his heart had forgotten how to beat. Noah threw his arms around my legs, giggling, and Daniel whispered, Mia, who is he? I knelt beside Noah, brushing his hair back gently. This is Noah, I said quietly. He looked between us, confusion and realization dawning in his eyes. He's ours. I met his gaze, unflinching. Yes, he's your son. For a long moment, he said nothing. His lips trembled, his eyes wet. And then, right there on the busy street, Daniel Carter, once the proud, untouchable businessman, fell to his knees. He covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking. I missed it all, he whispered. His first words, his first steps, everything. I don't deserve to be his father. People walking by turned their heads, some pausing to watch, but I didn't care. I looked down at him, the man who had once broken me, and all I felt was quiet sadness. I knelt too, placing a hand on his shoulder. You're right, I said softly. You don't deserve it, but he does. He deserves to know who you are. He looked up, tears streaming down his face. Mia, please, let me be in his life. I'll never ask for your forgiveness, but let me love him. Let me do something right. There was sincerity in his voice, raw, unpolished, desperate. For the first time, I believed his remorse. You can be his father, I said after a long pause. But don't expect anything more from me. He nodded, still on his knees. That's more than I deserve. Over the next few months, Daniel kept his word. He didn't push for reconciliation, he just showed up, for Noah. Every weekend, every birthday, every doctor's visit, he was there. Noah adored him instantly. Watching them together was bittersweet, a reminder of what could have been, but also what was finally right. Sometimes, I caught Daniel looking at me with quiet longing, but he never said a word. He respected the boundaries I set. Slowly, I began to see change in him, not the charming man I once loved, but a humbler, gentler version. One evening, after putting Noah to bed, I found Daniel sitting on the porch, staring at the sea. He looked at me as I approached. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me, he said softly, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be someone worthy of the family I lost. I sat beside him, watching the waves crash against the shore. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting, I said. It's about no longer letting the past control you. I've made peace with what happened, Daniel. Not for you, for me. He smiled faintly, tears glimmering. That's all I needed to hear. Silence settled between us, gentle and familiar. As the wind brushed through my hair, I realized something profound. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to see him suffer. I had already won, because I had built a life stronger than the one he tried to destroy. And when Daniel whispered, "You've become the woman I always should have protected," I simply smiled. Maybe love doesn't always mean going back. Sometimes, it means standing on your own, and watching the one who hurt you finally kneel, not for forgiveness but out of genuine remorse. Because true power isn't in making them pay. It's in walking away healed. He broke our vows once, but I built a life he could never break again. When he knelt, it wasn't before the woman he betrayed, it was before the woman who no longer needed him to rise.